This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, all right. Let's discuss about throws and throw keywords. So these are the two important things that we have to understand in exception handling. Okay, so keywords in exception handling. What is the purpose of throws and what is the purpose of throw? Okay, one is used to throw back the exception to its caller, whereas the other one is to create or bounce the exception. Okay, so this is throws. This is used to throw back the exception which is already created, which is already raised basically. Okay, already bounced or raised, you can say. Okay, from the code. So we are not going to create the exception explicitly. That's what, not the custom exception. So the exception rises because of our code due to some logical things. Okay, so that exception, if we don't want to handle that exception using the try catch blocks, then we'll have to use this throws keyword at method level. Okay, say for example, I have a method here, m1 method. So inside this m1 method, I have a code which will create an exception. Okay, so and of course this will be using forcefully, like for checked exceptions. If it is a checked exception, so compiler forces to handle that. Okay, and I do not want to handle that using try catch blocks. So because if I write a try catch blocks, the exception is going to suppress there itself. Okay, so if I write a try catch blocks, if there is an exception, it comes into a catch block. It comes into catch block, and that exception will be suppressed here. Okay, we are not throwing it back, we are suppressing it. If you handle it, okay, we are suppressing it here itself. But I don't want to suppress that exception here itself. Instead, I wanted to send that exception back to its caller, who is called m1 method. So I wanted to send this exception to that guy. Okay, so that is where we don't handle this using try catch blocks, and instead what we do is we simply throws the exception, whatever the exception. So for example, IO exception. Okay, so this exception we will send back to its call. Now this exception is going to sending back to the caller of the m1 method. So who is calling this m1 method? So that guy is responsible to handle this one. Say for example, I have another method m. Right, this m is calling this m1 method. Okay, so this is what m1 method, and m1 method is called from method m. So now this m1 guy is created one exception and bounced it, raised it, or whatever the exception rising from this code. I do not want to handle that in m1 method. I wanted to send that back to the caller. The caller here is m. So this exception it went back to here. Okay, so send back to this, and now this m method is responsible to handle the exception, or again it can throw it back again. So if we want to handle that exception here, yes, you can handle it, but if you don't want, what you can do is again, so try catch, right? So again, if you don't want to handle this here, what you do again, you will have to use throws keyword. So if you either handle it or throw it back, two options. Okay, when you don't want to send that back to the caller, then you handle it using try catch blocks. Okay, there are certain requirements where you don't suppress that exception. Instead, you send that message back to the user on the browser, and to the screen, to the front end. We will be sending a message some like there could be some message that shows to the user, okay, system error, please try after some time. Some kind of user understandable messages we will send. Okay, so in that case we will be throwing back this exception back to its callers and finally to the UI. Okay, that is where we don't suppress the exception using try catch blocks, and simply we will send that exception back to the caller. Okay, that is the importance of throws keyword. So here we will use again the same exception here. Then who is calling this this particular method m? Suppose if you have a main method, okay, and this guy is calling method m1, method m, then this guy is responsible to handle it. If this guy is also not handling it, then even here also we'll have to use the same thing. Then JVM is going to handle that exception because JVM is the one which is calling main method, right? So JVM is the one which is calling main method, and JVM handles that exception using the default exception handling mechanism. That's how it will work. Okay, let's take this example and go to here. So this is what I have an example. Okay, whatever I have written. Right. So why the error is coming up here? Because this is because the method m1 is a instance method. M is also instance method, but you are calling from the static context. Okay. So either you change your method as static, or you have to create object for this class and you will have to access it. But anyhow, just for now, I'm just making this as a static. Okay. All right. Now still we are getting an error. What is that error? Okay, the method m1 from the type exception test6 refers to missing type IO exception. So the IO exception, I will have to import that IO exception. Okay, it is from IO package java.io input output. From that, I have an exception IO exception. Okay, we'll have to import that one. What I'm doing, so I'm just throwing it back and like so all the way I'm sending the exception back. So what is the exception here? Okay, so yesterday I think I have written some example. Okay, let me take this class for class.name or this create new file, whatever it is. Okay, nothing is fine. Let me write the code for this. Now this guy is going to throw class not found exception, not this one. Okay, now I'll remove this one. Okay, anything is fine. Both are checked exceptions. Okay, so class not found exception, brother. So what is this ABCD? So if this ABCD class does not found, okay, then I cannot load that class. So there is a possibility of missing this class. So please ensure to handle that that scenario. That's what, okay, I'm saying, but I don't want to handle it. Okay, you send that exception, whatever we are getting here, right? That I wanted to send it back to its caller m, and this guy also doesn't want to handle it, so it sends back to this main method, and ultimately the main method will be called by JVM, and JVM is going to handle that exception. Okay, so if we run this, see, so here you can see the stack trace. Okay, class not found exception abcd class, I don't know where is that. Okay, so it is thrown from this find class, load class ultimately. Okay, so this is the stack trace of from the point where this exception is bounced, and this is bounced from our file. Okay, so here you can see line number 12, it is the stack trace from here. So from here to here, the next line, if you see line number 7, line number 7 is what, this one, meaning that this exception, it is sends back to its caller. It's what, line number 7. And again you can see the stack trace line number 4. Line number 4 is what, caller of this particular method m. So it sends back to this guy. So the whole stack trace is giving. Okay, so that will based on the stack trace, we'll go there and we'll fix it. All right. So first, suppose I do not want to send this back to, okay, so I do not want to send this back to JVM. Instead, what we'll do is we'll handle it. Okay. So how to handle it? Using try catch blocks. Okay, try. Exception. Yeah. So one second. Can you give me 1 second?
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so here instead of sending that back to the caller, I wanted to handle it. So here I can send out a user understandable message. Okay, please verify the class file. Looks like it is missed. Okay, so we'll send a message, some useful message to the user. So now this exception, whole exception stack trace, the whole exception stack trace will be suppressed. Now can you see, like, so this is what the message is. Okay, but if you want, along with that, if you want to print the stack trace, yeah, you can also print the stack trace. Okay, or you can print the whole exception, so that this is giving the object. So object, I don't need the object. Let me print the whole exception stack trace. So this is what you are getting. Okay, so class not found exception ABCD. If you want the line number and all, yeah, still you can get them if you want. Okay, so that's what we can customize it by suppressing the whole stack trace and by giving a user understandable message. Okay, the throws in general we use in real time. Okay, to send some user understandable message to the JSP pages ultimately. Okay, when we are using Spring Hibernate with the JSP web application, okay, there are different layers in the server side. Okay, we'll be having certain architecture like controller, okay, database, DO layer, service layer, something like that, where multiple Java files are involved. And when you have multiple Java files, somewhere the database logic may give an error, an exception, or maybe some service code may raise some exception. But whatever the exception, like, we'll have to send that back to the JSPs, okay, the UI page, where we'll take the message and we'll show it to the user in a proper way, so that user will understand. If we give that whole stack trace to the user will not understand, will not be able to understand anything that stack trace, right? That stack trace and all, that is for developers, for developers understandability, to identify the problem, where exactly the problem is. For that purpose, we'll have to we will have to log the stack trace. Okay, but for the user, we'll be sending some understandable message. In that process, we will have to use this throws keyword, and it is very important. All right, so this is about throws keyword. This is about throws keyword. Let us understand about throw. The other one is what? Throw. All right, so for this, right, so this is, so there are two things. One is, so if we are using any existing methods or APIs, or if you are writing some logic which is leading to some exceptions, the exceptions automatically raises when there is something wrong. The exception automatically bounces. Right now, the scenario is we are going to explicitly uh, creates an exception. Explicitly we create an exception, and we will raise that exception explicitly. Okay, that's what we are going to do that. Okay, so for that we are going to create our own customized exceptions. We create customized exception and create customized exceptions. Okay, so when do we create the customized exceptions? There are business scenarios. Okay, it depends on the requirement. Okay, so business scenarios, if the business is required. Okay, maybe you are working with some insurance project and say there is something called so policy is expired, maybe like depends on the date comparison. We will have to stop the flow, execution flow, and we'll have to send that back. Okay, so maybe we can create something like policy expired exception. Okay, policy expired exception. This is what some customized exception I'm going to define it. Okay, so or maybe you will be looking at when you are trying to access money from an ATM, sometimes you will be getting some that insufficient funds. So you can take something like insufficient funds exception. Okay, so some examples. Okay, so but this is a normal class, but this is to make this is a category of exception. So to make this or to link this to the exception family. Okay, so if you look at the exception hierarchy, how it looks like. If you look at the exception hierarchy, exception E, so this is the root class, like base class. Okay, so exception throwable, and before that we have multiple things. Okay, say for example, we have already seen arithmetic exception, right? So if you take this arithmetic exception, okay, arithmetic exception is extending what? Runtime exception. Okay, runtime exception. This is runtime exception is extending what? Exception. Ultimately, so all your exceptions are going to extend either runtime exception or exception. Okay, so if you wanted to link this as a exception family to the exception family, so what we had to do is even our exception is also should be extending either exception or runtime exception. Okay, in general all the customized exceptions are unchecked exceptions. Okay, where compiler doesn't know about this, so these are unchecked exceptions. All unchecked exceptions are going to extended by runtime exception, extended by runtime exception. So this is what we'll have to handle it. So insufficient funds exception, I'm going to define a constructor, and here I will pass the message string exception message. So division by 0 or something like this ABCD description we are getting, right? Something like the message if you want. So you can pass that message, and what I have to do, like how I'm going to print this message to the console. So that logic I don't have to care about that, because my runtime exception further it's going to take care of it. So runtime exception, what this guy is doing, simply doing super, and the constructor with the message, what this guy is doing, super of message. So whatever the message you have, you just bypass that message to the parent, and here it is passing to the what? Exception class, and exception class is bypassing to what? Super is what? Throwable. So here the logic, whatever message you are sending, that message will be sending to detailed message of that throwable class and the fill in stack trace. So this is what the logic where it is going to print out the complete whole stack trace. So that's a native method. So this is a native method, not which you don't see the any implementation in Java. That must be like other languages. So okay, so that there it will be implemented native library. Through native libraries it will access at runtime, and it will creates that stack trace. What is the line number, what is the class file, what is calling what. So the whole hierarchy stack trace will be provided by that. So what we have to do to create a customized exception is simply we'll just need to call the super. That's all we'll have to do. How the existing arithmetic exception or other things are doing, in the same way we'll have to do it. Okay, so this is what the exception that I have created. Okay, customized exception. This is what the customized exception And this customized exception, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create this. Okay, let me write a method. Let me write a method here. So here I can create an object of it. So how to create that object? Just as like as a normal class object creation. So insufficient funds exception. Okay, funds exception, new insufficient funds exception. So you just pass message, whatever the message you wanted to send that. Okay, so here the user, please ensure you have enough balance to withdraw. Okay, so this is how message will be given. This is what my method. Okay, this will throw method I'm calling. Okay, so if you call this, okay, nothing will happen now. If you run this, nothing will happen. Okay, because you created the exception class, exception object. That's all. But you did not raise. You did not raise it. You did not bounce it back. Okay, so in general, in the other cases, the code will bounce the exceptions. But in this case, the customized exception cases, we will have to bounce it explicitly. We will have to bounce it explicitly. So what we have to use is throw keyword here. Throw. Okay, once exception. Once exception. So now I'm throwing this exception. Okay, so I'm throwing this exception as it is okay, as it is a runtime exception. So compiler is not going to force to handle this. Okay, so I'm just throwing it. So whatever the exception throwing, that has to be handled. But why there is no error? Because compiler doesn't know about my exception. So it doesn't force to handle it. So but if you run this, you are going to see that an exception. Okay, exception thread main insufficient funds exception. What is the message? Hey user, please ensure you have enough balance to withdraw. And the stack trace, you can see where it is thrown from M1 method, and M1 method is calling from main method. So this is what the hierarchy of where the exception is created. Okay, so this is how like we will be okay, we will be handling uh, the scenarios, business scenarios. So this, we will do this explicitly in conditional basis. When we are going to do this, okay, if the withdrawal amount, okay, is greater than available amount, in that scenario we are going to handle, we are going to throw this. Okay, so that is what the scenario. The amounts in general comes from um, database or so. Okay, so come on, let's see, called something. Okay, available amount. Okay, now if you see this, okay, scenario, now you can say okay, it is throwing this because it is satisfying this condition, and it is okay. Okay, so if it is in the reverse scenario, you don't see this exception because it's like withdrawal amount is lesser than what available amount, so it works well, no exceptions now. Okay, so this is what something called business validations, or you can say, okay, business things. So I cannot get this through. I cannot get this work because it is not a valid case. So I will have to stop the flow. I will have to stop proceeding further, executing further code, and I'll have to send it back. That's all, nothing else. I have to do it. So that is where we will be bouncing an exception, and we'll stop the flow. We'll send that back, the message will send that back. Why I am stopping the flow, what is the reason? So that is where, so the customized exceptions helps a lot. Okay, so the customized exceptions are important. Customized exceptions are important. So now we'll understand about throw keyword and throws keyword. Okay, so is that clear, or any confusion? So throw keyword, this is used to raise an exception. Okay, this is used to raise an exception. So in general, we use this to raise customized exceptions. Okay, customized exception. Existing exceptions we never bounce it in general. Okay, so we'll use this for customized exceptions to create and raise the customized exceptions. All right. Any questions? Clear? Perfect. Okay. So the next thing is exceptions. We understand about few exceptions like null pointer exception, class cast exception, right? Let's understand few more. Exception, right? Example 8, I guess. Okay. All right. So still we have few more exceptions. We have already seen like class not found exception also, right? We understand about that as well. Class not found exception, when the class that you are trying to load is not available, then this exception is going to create. Now let's understand few more. Number format exception. Okay, this is also like most like we will get most of the time number format exception. Okay, when we get the number format exception, if you look at in the UI, right, in the UI, meaning that in the JSP pages and all. Okay, when you are sending the data from UI to server. Okay, so this is what server, and you have UI stuff here. Okay, this is what your server. In general, when you are sending data from UI to server, so that is what a request, we call it as request. Okay, as part of the request, the data will be sending it up. As part of the request, the data will be sending. And if you observe the request, right, the request will be sending using the request will be sending the requested data will be sending in terms of strings. Okay, so in terms of like key value pairs. Okay, key value pairs, and the form underlying text box name or so. So for example, here I have A's. Okay, I have something called A's field. I have a field here, A's field, where user is going to enter some value. So here user is going to enter 20 or so. Okay, so this is the A's, and this goes to the server as part of the URL as a key value base. The key would be, so this the code, the underlying text box name. The key will be the text box name. So if you give some text box name or something like A's or something, okay, so our A's value or something, whatever it is, some name. So the URL goes something like this: A's value is equal to 20, and it goes as a string. Okay, all the key value pairs are going to be by default as key value pairs. Okay, now it comes to the server now. So what is the type of this? So we'll get that as a string, but what is the number? It has 20. So I have a logic: if the age is less than 20, don't allow to continue, and just let us create an exception and bounce it back, saying that boss, you are not allowed to view this content or so, something like that. Okay, so in that case, I'll have to compare the age with the number 20. So this age is coming from the request. Okay, so whatever the value I'm getting from the request, which is what a string, this is what a string here. Okay, I'm getting from the request, I'm getting the value from the request value, get parameter of, I will give the key. My key is what? Key is age value. So this is how I'm going to get the value. I'm going to get the value of yes. Okay. Once I got the yes value, I'm going to compare that. If is less than 20, I'll do something. So now you will be running out an issue here. Is okay. Age is a string type and 20 is a number type, and you are trying to compare, which is not possible. So what you have to do is you will have to convert that. So you have to convert age in string into integer. You will have to convert that. Okay, into integer. How are we going to convert that? Is we have some concept of wrapper classes, and there we have a method to convert that into primitive. So if you give the string parameter, that's going to return that as an integer. Okay, integer is equal something like we are going to get. So now this is in string. Okay, so s is string is. Okay, so ultimately now age is integer and 20 is also integer. Now this works well. Do you understand the whole scenario? Okay, perfect. So if you go back and if you write the same thing, okay, say for example, so the UI stuff and all, now I'm not taking, simply I'm taking ultimately I'm taking a value in the string directly here because I don't have the ASP pages and all the setup. So what I'm doing, direct value I'm taking in string. Now this I wanted to convert it into integer. Integer is equal integer dot, we have something called integer dot percent of string. Okay, it takes the input as a string parameter. It takes a string parameter and returns that as integer. Okay, now if is less than 20, so whatever you want to print, you print it. That's up to you. Okay, so not allowed. Okay, so this works well. Okay, so age is 20, so condition doesn't meet, so it doesn't print. Okay, so if my age is something like 10, then so it will get inside and it will print that not allowed. Okay, perfect. So this is the scenario of code. And what will happen sometimes, okay, maybe if the user, okay, end user is not uh, up to that maturity levels, and instead of entering the value as 20, so he entered something like this 20. Okay, so now as it is it up to here happily, it will take it up to here, integer dot percent of s is equal to what, 20. So how it becomes now, it looks like, okay, integer dot percent of, so here I'll say 20. Okay, what will happen now? So this I'm trying to convert it into integer as. This is what the scenario. So is this a really number 20? It's not a number, it's not a valid number that I have inside a string. This is not a valid number. Okay, this is not a valid number, and this cannot be converted into integer by parsing method, and it will throw an exception here. Okay, so it is the scenario of, okay, so 20, this is a string, of course. Now so my logic, server logic is, because I'm expecting a number which is in the string code, so which I'm converting here percent of. Okay, so here what is the variable name? Yeah, so I'm converting that. Okay, now run this. Now we are going to get number format exception for input string 20. Okay, number format exception, this is very important, because like we used to get this kind of exception, so we have to be familiar like when this exception gets. Okay, we know the actual scenario. Must know the scenario when it is going to bounce. Okay, so we'll have to handle this kind of exceptions. We'll have to keep this inside try catch blocks, and we will suppress and we'll send back a user understandable message, which we'll have to do either things. Okay, so number format exception is also important. Hope you understand this one. Okay, we have something called illegal argument exception. Illegal argument exception. Okay, this is also like um, about the value, about the data. Okay, so for suppose I have a method. Okay, I have a method integer value. Okay, now so I have a restriction. Okay, I have a restriction for my value. Okay, I have a restriction for my value, meaning that so my method accepts integer value number. It accepts a number, but if the number is okay, if the number is less than 0, meaning that negative number, right? If you are trying to give the negative numbers, then I don't want I don't accept that. That is not a valid value for me. So what I do is I'll throw this exception, illegal argument exception. Okay, so this is what I'm throwing explicitly if you observe. Okay, negative, okay, negative values are not allowed here. Okay, negative values are not allowed here. So I am throwing this explicitly. Okay, and certainly okay, of course I missed that. Create the exception and throw it back. Okay, so this is what when conditionally I am bouncing the exception. So this is what illegal argument exception the case is. Okay, so when you are calling this method, okay, M1 method, if you are sending the value 10, that works. That is a valid argument. That is a valid argument. But if you call -10, this is invalid argument value. So here we will get that exception. So for the 10 it works well, but the other one I'm going to get an exception. Okay, why this is not went there? Because of this. Okay, let me comment this one and run this again. Okay, negative values are not allowed here. Okay, illegal argument exception. Okay, so that's the important exception that you will have to understand. Okay, so illegal argument exception, okay, number format exception, class not found exception. Okay, then okay, so yeah, so these are the possible important exceptions. Okay, however you can go through the material whatever I have shared with you. Okay, so that gives you more details.